Hi, and welcome to my channel. As you're probably aware, a lot of these videos are pre-recorded and scheduled in advance. So this will probably be about the middle of July if you're watching it right when it drops. But currently, as I'm recording, I am just post abdominal surgery for a gallbladder removal. So I am in the midst of recovering from that abdominal soreness and just overall just not quite as strong as I normally would be. So I definitely no headstands, no inversions, not doing any really tough, hard core work or even just folding forward as deep as I would normally. So today we're going to do some yin yoga. And if you're familiar with yin, you'll know that it is longer holds. For today's class, you'll want some props to support you in your journey, probably a blanket and at least a couple of blocks, maybe a bolster if you prefer a bolster as well. I will be using these items, or if you'd like, you don't need any props at all. Of course, that is an option just for wherever you're at. But we do hold the poses for anywhere from 2 to maybe as long as 5 minutes. So having the props there can really support you because we mostly will use gravity to allow ourselves to get deeper into the pose. So I'm using yin to help keep my joints and other things mobile and also just kind of fresh so I can stay in the game if that's how you want to think of it. So we will get started. Grab what you need and we will get started in a reclined butterfly pose. So make your way onto your back. And as you do so, we'll have an option in our reclined butterfly to use a block to have our butterfly lifted a little bit. So you may want to have your block nearby. So slowly make your way down onto the mat. Allow the soles of the feet to come together and the knees to just drop out to the side. We'll start here, and as we begin this process, just make sure that you set yourself up for success in each pose. So maybe using gravity with the knees is a little uncomfortable. You could have a block underneath the knee, supporting yourself, or maybe that doesn't bother you, and you can just stay in this reclined butterfly. Now, if you want to maybe go a little bit deeper, allow gravity to open up the hips a little more. You can slide a block underneath the tailbone. Lift the hips a little bit. Find a nice spot for your block to rest. And then come back into that reclined butterfly. Soles of the feet together. Once we're in our version of butterfly, allow the hands to open with the palms facing up. And let the eyes close. And we'll start to settle in. This class will be a combination of some gentle movement in between the long holds. I do like to have a small incorporation of movement into my yin class. For me personally, it just is something to distract you from the length of some of the holds. And it also feels good to have that release into the joints when we move in between each asana. Let's start by taking a nice deep breath in, allowing it to fill up the chest all the way down into the belly. Filling the lungs all the way to the top and then releasing the breath. feeling yourself let go. One more deep breath in. Fill the lungs all the way up to the top. And exhale slowly. Let it all out. Remember, these are longer holds, so I won't be talking nonstop throughout the class. There will be silence as we each find our own breath. And use your breath to focus. Keep coming back to the breath as your mind inevitably will want to wander. And the more you focus on each inhale and exhale, you'll notice your body start to relax and open further. From your butterfly, we'll go ahead and you can use the hands to assist the legs to bring the knees up, the soles of the feet to the mat. We're going to just counter that external hip rotation with a little internal rotation. Whether you're up on your block or flat on your mat, just walk the feet out so they're at the width, about the width of the mat, and then the knees can drop inward to touch. And just relax here for a moment. Notice it may be just as difficult to find the release in the supported resting pose as it was in your butterfly. An internal hip rotation is not something that we generally practice on a day-to-day basis. Start to separate the knees and then draw the feet back in. If you had a block, lift the hips and we'll set the block aside. And from here, we're going to come up to a seated position. So you can either roll onto your side, or if you want to rock up like a ball and come up into a seat, that's fine too. From here, we'll find deer pose. And we'll start with our right shin parallel to the top edge of the mat. From there, the left shin will be parallel with the left side of the mat. So you have this kind of 90-90 position of the legs. And you're also working an internal and an external hip rotation at the same time. So it can feel a little different. And by all means, you can grab a blanket as well and sit up a little bit higher on your blanket. A block might be a little bit too high, or you might feel a little off balance if you're up on a block for this. We'll start with some movement. Let's inhale the arms up. Exhale, take a twist as you maybe take the left hand to the outside of the right knee and look behind you. Inhale up. Exhale, twist over towards the left. Inhale up, maybe look up. Exhale to the right. Inhale up, and then twist to the left. One more time each side. Inhale, look up. Exhale, look right. Inhale up towards the sky, reach the arms up. Exhale, twist to the left. On the next inhale, we'll reach up, and then we'll start to shift the torso forward and allow the hands to come down to the mat in front of us. And from here, we'll take some torso dips. So allow the fingertips to just be touching the mat, almost like you have a little cupcake under each hand that you're trying not to squish. And from here, we'll bend the elbows, lower the chest maybe halfway down, and then lift up. You don't need to come down very far. Now we're just starting to work really into that right hip, letting that hip know that we know it's there. One more time, lifting up, and on this last one, we'll start to come forward, and now you can use blocks. Remember, they have different heights. You can use whatever height suits you, but we'll just stay in this deer pose for a couple of minutes. Either have the forearms up on the blocks, or they can come all the way down to the mat. Release the head and the neck. You can also close the eyes. And we start to find stillness in our hold. Now, as we're here for a few breaths, in any of these poses, you may feel like your body wants to deepen even further. So if you do need to pause and come out of the stillness so that you can adjust a prop and maybe allow yourself to get a little deeper, that is fine. But I encourage you, once you are at that next level, to again make a point of finding your stillness and use your breath, and to allow the connective tissue, the fascia surrounding the hip, to relax. In yin, for each pose we find our edge. So we come to maybe about 40 to 50% of what our stretch is, or where we start to really feel something. And then we pause there, because we hold these for such a long time that as the time progresses, you really feel the stretch start to intensify and work deeper and deeper. And all the while, we try to maintain that stillness by using gentle breaths. And we make sure that we're not pulling, we're not holding. The rest of the body is relaxed. The muscles in the face and the jaw feel gentle. And the shoulders and the neck are relaxed and smooth. When you're ready, we're going to use the hands and the forearms to push ourselves up and bring our torso back to upright. And from here, let's take the hands behind ourselves and we'll just do some windshield wipers, allowing the right knee to cross in front and then the left. And you'll probably start to feel the flow, the fluids and the blood flow rushing back into that hip. And from here, we'll end with that right shin again, parallel to the front of the mat, but we'll shift over onto the right hip and then draw the left foot forward, extend the right leg long. And from here, we'll take that left foot and bring it to the inside, the inner right thigh. And we're going to start with our body rather open. So our torso will face the upper left corner of the mat and maybe even a little bit more open than that. So with your foot against the right inner thigh, I want you to open it. And so now you have a space between your left foot and the inner right thigh. And from here, we're going to start to walk the hands in front of us. And again, cupcake those fingertips. And we'll start to bend the elbows. Allow the torso to drop. And then lift up. Bend forward. Allow the head to relax. Lift up. Bending forward. Lift up. And on this last one, we'll start to walk the hands in front of us. Again, you can use blocks and rest the forearms up on the blocks. And we're going to just hold ourselves in this position. Now, the right hip probably wants to lift up off of the mat. Try to get that right hip and the back of the right thigh to feel like it's moving downward. So you're staying balanced and you're not tipping more onto that left hip. This is a gentler version of a hamstring stretch, as we aren't going directly folding over the hamstring. We will follow this stretch up with the more intense hamstring stretch. But right now we're just letting the back of that right leg know that we know it's there. And we're just allowing the body to send the nervous system a message that says, it's okay. We can hold this pose. We can be in it for a couple of minutes. We're being safe. And the muscles are protected. So let's inhale up. And now we're going to allow that left foot to touch the inside of the right thigh. Shift your torso. You might have to adjust your sit bones a little bit. So now we're facing the top of the mat. Inhale the arms up, grow tall, and then we'll start to fold forward, starting with the back straight. But then as we come forward, allow yourself to round and allow the stomach to reach closer to the top of the right leg as you fold over into this hamstring stretch. Again, use your blocks. You'll hear me say this throughout each class. Using our props in yin is very beneficial. Don't be a hero. We want to relax into the pose. Use your breath to your advantage. Feel it travel down the spine, all the way down the back body. Maybe on the exhale, you feel yourself lower just a millimeter. Closing the eyes so that we focus on that third eye. Maybe taking your internal gaze up and in between the eyebrows, allowing your internal focus to deepen as the body relaxes and the shoulders spread wide. On an inhale, again, use the hands, use your arms to allow yourself to lift up. And then from here, we can take a couple more of those windshield wipers, drawing the feet in and allow the knees to drop from right to left. And we'll go to take that deer sequence on the opposite side so that we get both hips evenly. So when you're ready, we'll come to face the back side of the mat. Take the left shin so that it's parallel with the back. And then the right shin will be parallel with the right side, well, what is now your right side of the mat. So facing forward here, we're now in this 90-90 position. And then you can also, again, have that blanket underneath the left hip for a little bit of height, a little bit of support. Notice the difference already between your right and your left sides. We're all built differently, and you're going to feel it from one side to the other. We'll start again with those twists. Inhale the arms up, and then exhale. Draw the right hand to the left knee, and then looking over the left shoulder. Inhale up. Exhale, twist over to towards your right side. Inhaling up. Exhale left. Inhale up. Over to the right. And we'll take one more twist on each side. Very good. Now from here, again, we'll start to walk the fingertips forward, and we'll take those torso rolls. So little tent underneath the fingers, and then start to bend the elbows as you lower the chest, maybe halfway. And you don't need to come down very far, and then come back up. Lowering down, pressing up, lowering down, starting to really feel this into the outside of that left hip. Preparing the body for what's to come. All right, on this next one, we'll start to lower all the way down. You can come onto your forearms. You can take your head all the way down to rest onto the backs of your hands on the mat. And of course, you can use your blocks. Remember, as we hold, once you feel your body start to loosen into the position, you can adjust your props and maybe drop yourself a little bit deeper into the posture. Wherever you're at, start to breathe. Use the breath to surrender into the pose. While you hold here, just check in with the body. Make sure that the muscles of the face feel soft. We don't want to hold or to power ourselves into any of these positions. We're just allowing ourselves to deepen by using the breath and giving our minds and our bodies the positive message that we can relax into this pose. When you're ready, use your hands, press into the mat so that you sit up tall. If you'd like to take a couple of windshield wipers, just tilt back, bring the hands behind you, and then allow the knees to drop from side to side. From here, we'll prepare for that hamstring stretch. So as you bring the knees back over towards the left, extend that left leg out long in front of you, and then draw the right sole of the foot towards the inside of that inner left thigh. But then here we'll adjust by shifting the torso so we're facing at an angle to the back edge of the mat, and then opening up the right foot a little bit so that it's no longer touching the inner thigh. So we're very open here. We'll sit up tall, allow the hands to come out in front of us, and then start to walk ourselves forward. Take an inhale and then exhale, bend the elbows, lower the head, push into the earth as we rise up tall, and then exhale forward. And we'll do that a couple more times. Until finally we start to fold forward with the torso as we come into our hold. You can come into your forearms. If you can come all the way with your belly folded over, that's fine too. Allow yourself to round into the shape We're not looking to force or try to keep the spine flat. Usually in a traditional vinyasa class, we're looking to keep the spine as flat as possible. So in that small time frame, we're getting more of a stretch into the hamstring. Here we're just relaxing, trying to feel out that left hamstring so that it can start to relax down towards the mat. Now, just on as we did on the opposite side, again, you're going to feel naturally we're going to tip more into the right hip, but feel your left hip. Try to feel that drawing down as well. And at the same time, keep the left toes flexed while you're in this position. We'll hold for a few more breaths. Wonderful. From here, let's push ourselves upright. And now we're going to move more deeply into that hamstring stretch by drawing the right foot all the way back against that left inner thigh again, shifting your torso. So now we are more closed and looking at the back edge of the mat. So you probably need to lift your hips up and adjust. Lift the arms up to the sky and then start to fold forward over the top of that left leg. Reach for the props if you would like them. Slowly, on an inhale, walk yourself back to an upright position. Take a moment for those windshield wipers. It's always a good idea to counter your poses in yin, just to kind of get that blood moving and to get things going back into those joints. We'll start to come back around into a tabletop position, so we'll face the front edge of the mat once more. And since we're in our tabletop, I think this is a good time to just take some cat and cow movements at your own pace. So you can use the breath, nice gentle inhales, and then exhales. You can push into the mat. Inhale, allow the belly to drop. Exhale, round. Cat and cows are a very nice, kind of a restorative way to get some movement into the spine. Very good. From your cat and cow, we're going to come into a down dog. Now, I know this is usually a vinyasa type of pose, but we are coming into down dog really just to make more space as we come into the next pose. But since we're here in our down dog, go ahead and feel free to maybe walk it out. Feel into the back of those legs. Maybe give yourself a great big push into the mat with the hands as you feel the shoulders spread wide and down across the back. It's like taking an active full body stretch. Take a nice deep breath in and exhale it out. We'll do one more. And release, let it go. From here, again, as I was saying, we needed just a little bit more space because we're going to lift that right foot up and draw it to the outside of the right hand. And then from here, let's lower that back left knee down towards the earth. So in yin, this is called dragon. In vinyasa, we would just call this lizard, so you'll probably hear those terms used interchangeably. Before we really drop the hips into our lizard pose, let's go ahead and push the hips back. Allow the right toes to point up towards the sky. And then maybe come forward on an inhale, feeling the hips come a little bit deeper. And then push back into your lizard, or your almost like a half splits variation. And then come forward. We'll take one more. This time we'll come up into our dragon. If your back toes were tucked, let's untuck them and allow the hips to sink down. So up on our hands here, this is called baby dragon. You can stay up on your hands. You could also have some blocks and use your blocks if you would like to come down further onto your forearms. This just brings the mat a little bit closer to you as we get into this pose and hold. Now in this version of dragon, my foot is flat. My right foot is flat on the floor. You could also open the right foot up so that the outer edge of the right foot only is touching the mat. And now your right knee is kind of winged out to the side. If that feels good for you, by all means take it. Choose your variation and then come to a hold, and we'll hold for about 2 minutes. Yin yoga really gives us a chance to internalize on each of these movements, to close the eyes, and to focus. It gives us a chance to observe the many thoughts that go by. As our body multitasks and trying to send a message that we can relax and deepen further. But at the same time, I'm sure many other thoughts come up. As they do, allow them to pass without making any judgment. Very mindfully, start to push yourself up. If you were down on the mat or on some blocks, move them out of the way as you take your hands onto the mat. And we're going to start to walk that right foot to the center of the mat. And from here, we're going to again move the hips back. Maybe feel a little bit of a twist or a little movement as you come towards the back of the mat, as you shift the hips left to right. And then we'll come forward, bending the right knee, dropping the hips. And then let's push back, allowing the right toes to point upward. We'll take that a couple more times. And this next time, we'll come forward and then push back into a half splits. Now, this is not a traditional yin pose, but we're going to make it a longer hold today. We've done quite a few hamstring stretches, and this would be very beneficial. So your hands can still stay on the mat, or you can use blocks to keep them a little bit higher. Take an inhale, and on the exhale, just round over that right leg and relax into the stretch. We'll take about 5 or 6 breaths here. Again, we're just rounding over the leg and relaxing into the hamstring stretch. So this may feel very different. It is cued quite differently in a normal vinyasa class. Generally, you'll be looking at driving that right heel into the earth to get more activation. But today, we're just going to hold and maybe feel the torso deepen down a little bit further. Fantastic. From here, we're going to shift forward, and as we do so, we'll take that right shin and come into a half pigeon. So bend that right knee, and then find your version of your half pigeon. You can sit up on a block. That can make it much more comfortable. And find where you would like your block a little bit further back underneath your glute, or maybe kind of between your glute and your right thigh. But wherever you're at, we'll come into half pigeon. And of course, adjust that right shin. Usually if it's more at an angle, it's a little bit easier. Walk the hands out in front of you, and we'll do those torso dips just to ease into the posture, bending the elbows. and lifting up. Bending down and lifting up. And on the last one, we'll bend down and we'll hold for about 2 minutes. You can fold forward with the belly resting on the leg, or you can stay up on your forearms. Wherever you're at, return to your breath. Your breath is your friend on your yin journey. On an inhale, use your hands and your arms to push yourself up. And from here, we'll tuck those back left toes and just shift that right leg back until you come into a tabletop position. And from tabletop, go ahead and extend that right leg behind you. Maybe move the hips from right to left. Whatever feels good here. Just kind of getting some movement back into that right leg. And then from tabletop, we'll push back into that downward facing dog. Take a moment just to pedal the legs. We'll take that sequence on to the other side. One deep inhale. Exhale, let it go. On an inhale, draw that left foot up to the outside of the left hand. Draw the right knee down towards the mat, and we're coming back into our dragon pose. This time, we're taking the left side. So we'll start to wake up that left hamstring and the left hip by pushing the hips back. Allow the left toes to face the sky, and then come forward. Take that a couple more times. And then we'll come into our dragon pose. Untuck the back toes if you had them tucked. And feel the left hip. Allow it start to relax towards the earth. Now you can stay up high in baby dragon, or you can allow yourself to come a little bit further down towards the mat. Maybe you use the blocks, maybe you come all the way to the mat. Whatever serves you today. And if you took that winged dragon version where you were on the outside edge of the foot and allow the hip to open up even more deeply. You can take that version as well right now. I find a little bit more of a challenge when my sole of my foot is resting on the mat, but we're all a little bit different in how we're built. My left hip is usually tighter than my right, but that also depends on what I'm doing. If I'm doing the splits, they seem like they're easier on my left side than they are on my right. Maybe you feel your hips start to melt a little bit further. Maybe you notice a warmth through the outside of that left hip. Also a stretch through the inside of that right groin. Now slowly and carefully start to lift yourself up out of your dragon pose and walk the left foot to come to the center of your mat. From here, shift the hips back, point the toes, and then draw the hips forward, sink the hips low. Pushing back into your half splits, and then sink the hips forward. We'll take that flow one more time. Push back, and then come forward. And this last time, we'll shift back and hold in our half splits position. Your hands can come to blocks or touch the mat. But from here, we'll just take a nice inhale, and then on the exhale, allow the back to round, the head and neck to be heavy. Maybe close the eyes. Drape your front body over the top of that left leg. Just encourage those hamstrings to lengthen, to relax. Most of us sit a lot during the day, and it's very common for our hamstrings to be really tight. On an inhale, slowly push yourself upright and start to bend that left knee, and we'll come into half pigeon on the left side. Again, use your block. Sit on the block if you find that that feels better for you. Bend the left knee, adjust the left shin, maybe having it more of an angle so it's a little bit more comfortable. Extend that right leg long. Make sure that the right knee is facing down so that you're not rolling that leg outward. And then start to draw the hands in front of you. We'll take those torso dips. Just talking to that outside of the left hip. We'll do one more. And then as we lower down, we'll just release into our half pigeon.
forearms to blocks, or maybe take the stomach and lay it across the front or the top of that left leg and hold. Finding our edge. And slowly allowing the body to soften and relax. I'll take about 5 more breaths here. On your next inhale,
Push yourself up with care. Tuck the back toes, come into your tabletop, and we'll just stretch out that left leg. Maybe extend it long. Find some movement. You can dip the hips from left to right, moving the leg however you see fit, just so you can start to get a little bit of feeling into that left hip. Very good. From here, we're going to find a seated position, coming to sit in a straddle position. Now, it doesn't have to be super wide, because remember that we will hold these for a couple of minutes, so it will intensify. And so as you come into your straddle, keep the toes pointed upward, sit up tall, and also I would recommend even sitting on a blanket so that we sit a little bit higher in our straddle. It helps us keep the spine just a little bit. Well, we're not intending to keep it straight, but it helps you keep the shape of the straddle better in your yin posture. So as we sit in our yin here, we'll again take those torso dips just to feel. You're going to feel it on the inner thigh and again into those hamstrings. So lifting up with the torso and then lowering down. Notice the difference here as compared to when we did our other poses, when we're doing just one hamstring or one leg at a time. Doing both legs at once can feel like a lot. So, as we do these little dips, it's kind of like dipping our toes into the pool. Just trying to give the body a little taste of what's to come. So, on the next one, we'll lower down, maybe starting with a block or two. And you don't need to come very far. You can even stay up on your fingertips and just start to lean forward with the torso. Allow the head and the neck to relax. If you would like to use blocks or take your arms or even your belly all the way to the ground, by all means do so. Allow everything to just settle in. You can allow yourself to walk back up to an upright position, and we'll stay with the straddle, but this time we'll work a little bit onto each individual leg. And these will be our last poses before we come into Shavasana. So just a heads up. So keeping the wide-legged straddle, let's turn the torso to face the right leg. Now the hands can come to the outside, the right hand to the outside and the left hand to the inside. That will make it a little bit harder, as also if you bring the hands a little bit closer towards the foot, having them in closer will be easier. And then also having them to the inside of the leg will be easier. So lots of options here. And from this, wherever you're at, we're going to just start to walk the hands forward. And then again, rounding, feeling the stomach. Come a little bit closer to the top of that right thigh, draping over the right leg. At the same time, feel the left hip remain heavy, so it is still connected to the earth. Just a shorter hold here. We'll hold for about 3 more breaths. And then we'll inhale back up, and we'll take that same variation over towards the left leg. So find what works for you. Again, between your left and your right, you might have a little different variation. You may not be able to come down as deeply on one side as you could on the other.
And about 3 more breaths on this side. When you're ready, lift your torso. Come back to center. You can use your hands to help you draw the legs in. Bring the hands behind you, and this time we will definitely take some windshield wipers as we move the legs from side to side. And when you're ready, we can come back into stillness. We'll come down onto our mat in Shavasana. If you would like to use the blanket to cover yourself in Shavasana, by all means do so. We'll just start to close out our practice. Extend the legs long. Maybe take the left hand to the heart and the right hand to the belly. And the eyes gently close. And we'll relax and close out the practice. With your hands on your chest and your belly, just feel the gentle rise and fall with every inhale and exhale. Feel the peace and the stillness within. When you're ready, you can draw the feet in. You can also stay in Shavasana as long as you would like. Roll onto a side. It doesn't matter which. We'll just pause for a moment, curling the knees in as we'll slowly make our way up into a seated position. Crossing the legs. Inhale the arms up. Bring the hands together through prayer and draw them down through heart center. Take an inhale. Exhale. Round the chin to the chest. As we close our practice in gratitude. Gratitude for coming to our mat today. My gratitude for you showing up to my channel. And release. As always, thank you for joining me on this practice today. If you liked it, please hit that like button. Leave a comment below. I enjoy suggestions or any things that you have in mind that you would like for your improvement in your yoga practice. And as always, have a great day. Make it a good one. Bye.